Well, drug makers have been blasting a Texas court's recent ban on an abortion pill, saying the ruling could hinder the development of new medicines. Yahoo Finance's Anjalee Khemlani joins us now with more.
That's right, Julie. So a lot of these major companies have been signing on to a letter, as well as have joined an amicus brief that would support the maker of mifepristone in this Texas ruling. And we know, of course, the government has also filed an appeal. So this just adds to what we know is an ongoing fight. I want to point out that in this letter, the companies have taken a pretty strong stance on the issue, saying specifically, quote, that the judge's decision is basically interfering with the FDA's authority and setting a precedent to diminish that over drug approvals, and in doing so creates uncertainty for the entire biopharma history. So here to join me with more on that is one of the signers and the leader of the letter blasting the decision, Jeremy Levin, Ovid Therapeutics CEO. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
So tell us about this letter. As I understand it, you started it with a couple of others and made some calls to some of the big pharma companies to get them to sign on as well. What are you hoping the impact will be?
We started this some time ago. We watched the case being filed. We actually thought it would never go anywhere originally. And then as it got momentum in the court, we felt we had to take action. Last Friday, we drafted the letter, finalized it, and then the handful of us circulated it very quickly. The point was that within hours, hundreds, now well in excess of 500 people have signed on. These are the leaders across the industry, the people who generate medicines, actually not just for America, but right around the world. The bottom line is, if we do not stop this, what will happen is you've opened the door to a complete abrogation of the mandate that Congress has given to the FDA. The FDA is the only body with medical and scientific capability for assessing new medicines. We can't hand that to a court, a single judge, and that if we do that, we upend the entire process for developing medicines, vaccines, devices.
So wouldn't you, what isn't the industry already kind of used to being a part of the legal system? You know, people sue against impacts of drugs all the time. We've seen a lot of controversy, like in the case of Aduhelm, the pushback from the public as well as the regulatory body itself. So why would this be any different?
This is completely different. At its core, this judge has challenged the approval of a drug with decades and decades of safety. That safety it was approved appropriately by the FDA. Then we have decades of safety data showing that it's effective and has actually been very instrumental in saving the lives of individuals. Now, there are many other drugs like this, hundreds, to be perfectly honest. That said, if now a politically motivated group can now sue with an individual judge and overturn decades of scientific and medical evidence without having any of that experience, no medical experience, no scientific experience, you throw into question the entire ability to approve a drug appropriately. So this is different. When drugs cause side effects, yes, you can absolutely challenge the companies. That's totally correct. This is different. They're challenging the approval of this drug, which was medically and scientifically evaluated and its safety proven over years.
And when we're talking about taking this stance with the companies that you've been able to rope in, when it comes to the stance politically, it seems like this is where the companies are starting to go to be able to respond to political pushback. Do you think that this is sort of the new trend? Is this what we're going to start seeing?
Well, to be fair, companies have stakeholders. They're patients, they're investors, they're shareholders. They are every component of our society. And those are also the voters. So it can no longer be the case that a company can simply say, well, I'm just going to look for shareholder value. they have to be part of this ecosystem, which includes the policymakers. So yes, companies must pay attention to what policymakers are doing. And when you have a critical step like this by an errant judge who suddenly decides to take on a system, you really must step forward, because if you don't do that, you threaten the health of the nation, you threaten the ability to find new medicines, new drugs, new vaccines, and actually you put at question the entire leadership that America has as the premier source of innovation in medicines in the world. The FDA is the gold standard. Everybody in the world uses it. That is the standard we, you, I, and millions of other people who take a medicine rely on. Now you've got one person in a court somewhere saying, without medical or scientific evidence, saying, we're not having that any longer. How can that be?
I know that we've got a bunch of the House and Senate Democrats signed on as well to this amicus brief. Are you hoping that they might take a step as well in looking at proposals for bills and the like?
Well, this is really a bipartisan issue. This is not left or right. This is not male or female. This is about, do Americans want to have safe and effective medicines? And do we believe in the mandate that Congress has been given to the FDA to be the sole arbiter of such? If we do that, then in fact, it's really not a question of whether the Democrats or the Republicans do anything. Incidentally, of the hundreds and hundreds of signatories that have come in from leaders across the industry, there are Democrats, there are Republicans, there are highly religious people, there are secular people. This is not a question of any one side. We're all in this together. This threatens the health of America.
And then a final point on the FDA's authority and the impact on the industry. I know a lot of the companies and leaders have said that this could really impact the potential for new drugs to come to market and innovation. And I wonder, we've heard that before, especially when there was pressure on drug pricing. So it seems like there's a lot of concern within the industry right now about many external factors that could put pressure on innovation. What would you say to the idea that this is, inherently risky as a business anyway?
No, this is completely different. In our business, you have a large number of risks you have to take: biological, medical, regulatory. But they're all risks that our industry understands. And then finally, when you get the medicine into the marketplace, you understand that you have to take it to patients. And there's a price that has to be paid for that. And certainly Congress and the industry debate over how you handle those prices. This is different. This is saying, you know what? We have a drug. You think you've got a drug. It's been approved. Now we're going to say it's not a drug. How can you have any predictability in our industry when you have now the likelihood, if this is successful, of a legal challenge of the already extremely thoughtful and deeply arduous approach to finding new medicines? If you're now going to have a single court in any part of the country can now challenge that, you upend the very basis of whereby innovation is driven. Some form of fundamental medical and scientific evaluation of that medicine has to be taken. The FDA is the right place for it. Congress has mandated that. And without that, it's a completely different system. America will lose its place in the world as a primary producer of medicines.
Certainly something we'll all be watching play out, as I know you will. Jeremy Levin, Ovid Therapeutics CEO, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.